Welcome back to Echoes of the Verse, the AI podcast about Star Citizen lore.
Great to be back.
Today, we're locked onto two star systems that really spark endless discussion in the verse. You've got the gleaming corporate-run Stanton system,
The powerhouse.
and then there's the wild, lawless frontier of Pyro.
Complete opposite end of the spectrum, really.
Exactly. So we're going to dive deep into each of these regions today, sort of peel back their layers, and then, put them head to head.
Sounds good. The goal really is for you listening to really get a feel for what makes these two places tick, their characteristics, their history.
Yeah, and maybe even get you thinking about which one, if any, you'd rather call home, or maybe just visit carefully.
Very carefully in one case. We've pulled together quite a bit of info, looking at everything from, the stars themselves to the factions calling the shots.
So by the time we're done, you should have a much clearer picture of the opportunities and, well, let's call them the unique challenges each system throws at you.
Definitely you need challenges.
Okay, let's kick things off with Stanton then. Now, for anyone tuning in who might be newer to the verse, and welcome, Stanton is a single star system.
Right, centered around a G-type main sequence star. Pretty stable, much like Earth's sun, actually.
And what really makes Stanton stand out is, well, it's one of only two fully colonized systems under the UEE umbrella.
The United Empire of Earth, yep.
And incredibly, it's got 4 planets sitting comfortably in the green zone, that habitable sweet spot.
4 of them.
Yeah.
Which is, pretty unusual. And these aren't just naturally habitable worlds you stumbled upon. All 4, that's Hurston, Crusader, ArcCorp, and Microtech. They've all had terraforming work done.
To varying degrees, right. So they each ended up with pretty distinct environments.
Exactly. But maybe the most defining thing about Stanton is who owns them. It's not your typical UEE setup.
No, not at all. These are essentially company planets, each one owned, operated, basically run by a massive corporation.
You've got Hurston Dynamics on Hurston Think Weapons, heavy industry, that sort of thing.
Then Crusader Industries on Crusader, building those amazing ships up in the clouds.
ArcCorp, which is, well, it's basically one giant city covering the planet.
Almost wall-to-wall buildings, yeah. And finally, Microtech, using that super cold climate for their tech, their big data centers.
It's like 4 private corporate fiefdoms, all squished into one star system.
And that corporate ownership, it has a huge impact on how things actually work day-to-day in Stanton.
For sure. I mean, UE common law, the standard rules, they technically apply.
But the UE itself doesn't really have a big police force there, does it?
Not really, no. Enforcement is mostly handled by each corporation's own private security forces, on their own planet, their own turf.
So you've got these 4 corporate giants, each with its own security, its own agenda, coexisting maybe, or competing?
Probably a bit of both. And to try and keep things somewhat coordinated, the leaders of these 4 megacorps actually get together once a year for the Stanton System Conference.
Imagine being a fly on the wall in those meetings. The power plays, the negotiations.
Oh, yeah. You just know there's tension there. Always the potential for those corporate rivalries to, bubble up.
Makes you wonder. So how did Stanton even become this corporate hub? What's the history there?
Well, relatively speaking, it's a pretty recent discovery. Found back in 2851.
By a nav jumper, right?
Toshiaren.
That's the one. Nav jumpers being the folks who find new jump points between systems. And Toshi, being quite savvy, sold the jump data straight to the UEE. And the UEE, seeing the strategic value, immediately slapped an eminent domain claim on the whole system.
Yep. Basically, thanks for finding it, it's ours now. Which meant anyone already living there, prospectors, maybe some survivalists.
Brick waters, even.
Right. Anyone who'd sort of set up shop already, they were basically told to pack up and leave. Backed by the UEE military, of course.
Not exactly a warm welcome for the original pioneers, then.
Hardly. So after clearing the place out, there was this big debate back in the UE Senate about what to do with Stanton.
And the decision was controversial, to say the least.
Extremely. They decided to sell off the 4 habitable planets to the highest corporate bidders.
Which basically granted these companies jurisdiction over an entire planet. Within UEE law, sure, but still, wow.
Yeah, a huge move. And that's how we got the names. Hurston Dynamics bought what became Hurston, Crusader Industries got Crusader, ArcCorp got ArcCorp, and Microtech got Microtech.
No points for creativity on the naming front, huh? Just slap the corporate logo on it.
Pretty much. And that kicked off this massive industrialization. Factories, HQs, test sites, mines. Stanton became this economic engine.
And a place where, realistically, you only lived there if you worked for one of the big 4, or, leased space from them.
And that legacy is huge today. Stanton produces vast amounts of materials, finished goods, things the whole UEE relies on. Demand is always high for what comes out of Stanton.
And each planet really developed its own distinct personality, didn't it?
Totally. ArcCorp, like you said, just this sprawling ecumenopolis, almost pure city.
Then Hurston, incredibly resource-rich, but paying the price with, like, severe pollution, right? Awful air quality.
Yeah, the environmental cost of all that heavy industry is starkly visible there. Microtech, meanwhile, leaned into its cold, perfect for those heat-sensitive computers and manufacturing.
And Crusader, with those amazing floating shipyards in the atmosphere of a gas giant, I mean, that's incredible engineering.
It is. Though even they're facing more issues lately, with outlaws hitting their shipping lanes. Seems even in corporate space, the edges can be frayed.
Nowhere's perfectly safe, I guess.
Pretty much. And holding all this together, celestially speaking, is the star itself, Stanton, that G-type star providing the energy.
And we got the Aaron Halo asteroid belt, too, between Crusader and ArcCorp.
Yep, named after Toshi Aaron. Potentially rich in resources, but definitely dangerous territory for miners.
Plus the occasional comet, like the Bear Comet, just to mix things up.
And it's well connected. Big jump points to Magnus and Terra, major UE hubs, and crucially, that medium jump point.
The one leading to Pyro, our next stop. Before we make that jump, though, quick bit of trivia for the longtime explorers out there. Remember Delamar?
Oh yeah, the independent asteroid base.
It actually spent some time parked in Stanton, orbiting Crusader, between Alpha 3.0 and 3.1 before it got moved to its proper home in the Nix system.
Right, a temporary resident. And apparently the whole reason Stanton was the first system available back in the day was because the developers specifically designed it to support basically every single gameplay loop they had planned. Mining, trading, combat, exploration.
Ah, okay. So it was like a microcosm of the whole Star Citizen experience from the start.
Pretty much. So that's Stanton. Corporate control, heavy industry, a veneer of order, but with its own problems simmering underneath.
Got it. Okay. Deep breath, everyone. Prepare for a total change of pace. We're heading into the chaos of Pyro.
Buckle up is right. Pyro is, yeah, it's a different beast entirely.
So we leave behind the corporate towers, the relatively predictable laws of Stanton.
And arrive in an unclaimed, mostly anarchic system. No UE oversight here.
And the defining feature. That star, an unstable K-type main sequence flare star.
A variable star, meaning it has these violent outbursts, flares, hence the name Pyro, that and the original claimants, Pyrotechnic Amalgamated.
So where Stanton had 4 green zone planets, Pyro has 6 planets, but they're not exactly resorts.
No, they're all in some state of decay, constantly battered by the star. Remnants, really.
And who lives here? If Stanton is corporate employees, Pyro is.
A real mixed bag. You've got some independent settlers, prospectors, trying to make it work on the fringes. But mostly, it's pirate gangs. Lots of them.
Like the Headhunters, 73R Vipers.
Meyer Rants, Rough and Ready, the big one being Xeno Threat. This goes on. Forget security forces. There is no central government in Pyro. None.
So how does anything get decided?
Basically, whoever has the most guns wins. That's the law. Control shifts constantly. Gangs fight over territory, resources.
So holding a strategic spot like Ruin Station must be a huge deal.
Oh, massive. It gives you significant leverage, yeah. De facto control over large areas sometimes. It's a world away from Stanton's boardrooms.
And the danger isn't just people shooting at you. That star is a constant menace, right?
System-wide. Even with good shields, your ship can take residual damage just flying around during flare activity. And being outside without proper protection during a flare?
Lethal radiation exposure.
Pretty quickly, yeah. You need shielding, you need meds. Constantly.
So how did Pyro end up like this? What's its backstory?
Well, the system itself, or at least a gravitational anomaly, was noticed way back in 2469. But it wasn't really found until 2493 by Pyrotechnic Amalgamated.
The guys who gave it the name, they were looking for mining opportunities.
Exactly. New territory. But they quickly ran into problems. Those solar flares, they just wrecked their equipment constantly.
So mining was way harder than they expected.
Incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And terraforming any of the planets was basically impossible with that star going off all the time.
Okay, so facing that, what did Pyrotechnic Amalgamated do?
Well, in a move that seems, let's say, opportunistic, they basically handed the system's coordinates over to the UNE, the United Nations of Earth back then.
Hoping for government help? Subsidies?
Pretty much. Here's this system. Maybe you can help us make it work. The UNE did surveys. They saw some minerals on Pyro too, but they also saw that nightmare star. Big red flag.
So they were cautious?
Very.
Oh.
They even started a small pilot program to study flare effects, but they never formally claimed Pyro. Their attention, their money, it shifted elsewhere.
To places like Magnus and Terra, more
Yeah.
promising systems.
Exactly. And then came government restructures. The UPE formed, then the UEE.
Yeah.
Any lingering projects in Pyro just got dropped, left unfinished.
And Pyrotechnic amalgamated,
Without those subsidies facing huge maintenance costs, they went bankrupt in 2563.
leaving behind all their abandoned stations and mining gear.
Creating the perfect vacuum for, well, less savory elements to move in. By the late 27th century, Pyro was already gaining its reputation. Haven for outlaws.
Making legitimate business almost impossible.
Extremely dangerous, yeah. And that really set the stage for what Pyro is today.
And the star itself, Pyro. It's the main villain in this story, isn't it?
You could say that. It's old, like 11.3 billion years old. A K-type flare star in a prolonged nova phase.
Meaning
Meaning it has rapid dramatic changes in brightness and just erupts with these powerful solar flares, blasts of radiation across the system.
So if you're caught out in that...
You need cover immediately.
Yeah.
And anti-radiation meds like a deacon pen stat. Otherwise, you're in serious trouble. Even ships aren't immune. Prolonged flares mess with shields, electrical systems.
Nasty. And the planets reflect this harshness.
Absolutely. Pyro 1, super close to the star. It's silicate-crushing atmosphere, crazy heat, violent storms.
Yeah.
Yet somehow, some life exists there. Adapted, I guess.
Incredible. Then Monarch's Pyro 2.
That's a coreless world. Toxic atmosphere, carbon monoxide mixed with some oxygen, scarred from old mining, but surprisingly temperate. Some outlaws call it home.
Bloom, Pyro 3rd. That one sounds nicer.
Well, it's icy, terrestrial. It actually has a breathable nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere naturally. But it used to be a big mining center, and now
Yeah.
it's just completely overrun by outlaws.
Ah. So looks can be deceiving.
Very much so. Then Pyro 4 is really weird. Theory is it got hit by something huge, like planet-sized, way back.
Whoa.
Yeah, so its landscape is all warped, fractured. It's got this new, unstable atmosphere. And get this, it's slowly spiraling into Pyro V.
Seriously, a slow motion collision.
Yep, billions of years away, maybe, but happening. Pyro V itself is the biggest planet, striking green and yellow atmosphere. Some brave souls try hydrogen harvesting there.
Brave or crazy. And finally, Terminus.
Pyro's the sixth.
Frigid, barely habitable. Atmosphere's got methane. You can breathe it short term, but it's harmful if you're exposed too long. And orbiting Terminus. That's where you find Ruin Station.
The big one, the center of power, such as it is.
Exactly. Used to be Piama's main hub. Abandoned, then taken over by smugglers, pirates. And since 2947, controlled by Xenothreat, they're pretty much the top dogs in Pyro because of it. But there are other stations, too. Controlled by other gangs.
Oh, yeah. Rough and Ready has a few, like Checkmate Station, Obituary, Patch City. Citizens for Prosperity has some smaller outposts, too. It's a network of varying levels of danger and service.
Plus all those derelict PYM facilities scattered everywhere. Ghost stations.
Relics of that failed corporate venture, yeah.
Yeah.
And don't forget the rocks.
Asteroids.
Yep. The Akiro cluster near Pyro isn't worth much, mostly charred rock, though maybe some rare stuff hidden. But there are tons of smaller clusters, and these designated asteroid bases, Rab Alpha, Rab Beta, etc.
Hideouts, ambush points, secret stashes.
Could be anything, really.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect for the Pyro lifestyle. And interestingly, Pyro actually has more jump points than Stanton.
Really? But smaller ones.
Mostly, yeah. Medium or small connections to places like Cano, Castra, Hadrian, Nix, Oso, even a small one back to Terra. And of course, the medium jump to Stanton, it reflects that wilder, less controlled history. Lots of little backdoors.
Makes sense. Any development history notes for Pyro?
Just that originally, way back, the plan was for all Pyro planets to be lifeless. But that changed as they fleshed out the lore, obviously.
Gave it more character.
Right. And a bit of trivia. That Arena Commander map, Dying Star, canonically, it sets somewhere between Pyro 1 and Pyro 2. A little nod to the system's danger.
Okay, wow. So we've painted a picture of two very different systems. Stanton, the corporate machine. Pyro, the chaotic frontier.
Drastically different, yeah.
Let's maybe try and sharpen that comparison. What can you actually do or maybe not do in each place? Government, economy, that kind of thing.
Good idea. Starting with government or control. It's night and day, isn't it?
Totally. Stanton, corporate rule. Within the UEE framework, you've got private security, regulations, even if they're corporate ones, relative stability.
Pyro, anarchy, pure and simple. No central authority. Pirate gangs rule by force. Control is always up for grabs. Regulations, forget it. The ultimate Wild West.
Okay, economy-wise, Stanton's all about that huge industrial output, right? Trade, manufacturing, resources.
Yep. Driven by the Big Four. A structured, if corporate-dominated, economy. Pyro's economy is, well, it's the fringe. Black markets, piracy, maybe some risky resource extraction if you can manage it. Very opportunistic.
Environmental hazards. Stanton has its spots, like Hurston's pollution.
Or Microtech's cold, yeah.
Hmm.
But they're localized. Generally, the system itself is safe-ish for ships with standard shields.
Pyro. System-wide danger zone. That flare star is always a threat.
Always. You need good shields, anti-rad gear, just for basic survival and navigation. The planets themselves are often decaying, hostile. It's a fundamentally dangerous place to just be.
And the people reflect that, Stanton. Mostly corporate employees, people living in company towns.
Pyro. Independents, outlaws, pirates, settlers, toughing it out on the edge. Very different populations.
Lastly, jump points. Stanton's connected to major hubs, but fewer points overall, generally larger ones.
Right. Well-established routes. Pyro has more connections, but often smaller, maybe less stable jump points, linking it to a wider, perhaps wilder range of systems, more back alleys, fewer highways.
And that key jump between them, Stanton Pyro. The gateway between order and chaos, really.
That's a good way to put it.
So there you have it. The highly regulated corporate world of Stanton contrasted with the lawless, dangerous, but maybe freeing frontier of Pyro.
Two systems, two vastly different ways to experience life in the verse. One offers structure, production, maybe a degree of safety.
While the other offers, well, total freedom maybe, but at the cost of constant danger and struggle.
Exactly. It really paints a picture of the incredible diversity across the different star systems.
It really does, and it poses that classic question, doesn't it? What are you looking for out there among the stars? Security or freedom? Structure or chaos?
A choice every pilot, every citizen has to make at some point, I suppose. Which path do you take?
A fascinating question indeed. Something to think about. Now, for our next deep dive, we're actually going to stay put back in the relative safety of Stanton.
Oh, sticking
Yeah.
around the corporate sphere.
We are. We'll be digging into the history, the power, the influence, and maybe some of the hidden conflicts between those major corporations that run the show in Stanton. Hurston, Crusader, ArcCorp, and Microtech.
Focusing on the big four themselves, that should be very interesting. Lots to unpack there.
Definitely. So join us for that next time. Until then, fly safe.
And may your jumps be true.